The franchise might be adding top names like Charlize Theron and John Cena at a Fast and Furious pace, but we all know it's the cars that are the stars. Oh hey, that rhymes.
Dude, I almost had you.
It may have started off as a story of street racers with a less than ethical way to get parts, but that simple story has evolved to be one of the biggest franchises going, with the 9th installment just waiting for theaters to reopen.
Impressive, I know.
Until then, let's look at some of the craziest cars so far. Dom is a Mopar guy. Mopar is literally just motor and parts pushed together to name Chrysler's parts division, but it's also become the catch-all of the Chrysler brand muscle cars, including the Dodge Charger. In a heartfelt moment, Dominic Toretto tells Brian he grew up helping his dad assemble a 900 horsepower beast capable of clearing a quarter mile from a standstill in less than 9 seconds. The vessel for this madness is a 1970 supercharged Dodge Charger RT. It's a car so powerful that Dom is afraid to drive it. Considering the life that the Charger has, Dom is right to be afraid of that car. When he finally takes the wheel to drag race Brian at the end of the first movie, it ends up cartwheeling over Brian's Supra. Dom's partner Letty restores that car only to have Dom run it into a wall of explosives. Surprisingly, the car is put together again, only to end up in a game of chicken where no one blinks. It was last seen being flung at a helicopter, but given how often it's come back, keep an eye out for it in the 9th installment. Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift was a bit of an experiment. It was the 3rd movie and it was bleeding stars. Vin Diesel had skipped the 2nd installment and Paul Walker didn't make the 3rd, so Tokyo Drift was meant to turn the Fast and Furious brand into an anthology, telling unconnected stories of street racing across the world, in this case the world of drifting in Japan. The last-second ad and a bribe with a custom-made Plymouth Roadrunner led to the cameo by Dom at the end that ended up connecting the films back together. In the meantime, the film revolved around an American street racer, Sean Boswell, who's sent to live with his dad in Japan after a crack-up stateside. There he learns the art of drifting, a style favored by Japanese street racers, emulating Japanese racing legend Kunimitsu Takahashi, who would slide through turns to maintain speed. To drive this East meets West storyline, to face Sean's final challenge, a 1967 Mustang GT gets the engine from Japanese premier performance car, a Nissan Skyline. The JDM, or Japanese Domestic Market Swap, is a nice nod to the combination of racing cultures that make up the basis for the franchise. It's astounding how many high-stakes stunt heists there are that revolve around exotic and irreplaceable cars. Like in Fast 5, when a man named ZZ hires them to steal back cars seized by the DEA, with particular interest in one of them, a Ford GT40. Trying to figure out why that car is so important, Mia Toretto takes off with it, resulting in another rare homologation special, this time a Corvette Grand Sport, being hurled into a river, as well as even more shenanigans. It turns out that ZZ has the hidden location to over $100 million in the former Ford racer. It might have seemed odd at the time for some people, but thanks to the last year's blockbuster Ford vs. Ferrari, they might know a bit more about the car. Ford commissioned the GT40 to take on Ferrari at the 24 Hours of Le Mans, an endurance race held in the south of France. A team of Lola and Ford engineers worked to get the car up to speed, but it was a chicken farmer from Texas named Carroll Shelby that ended Ferrari's reign at Le Mans forever and won 4 years in a row. With all that car heisting going on, the family's bound to make some enemies. The good news is that the more powerful the enemy, or at least recognizable the actor who plays them is, the greater the likelihood that they'll come around back as an ally. The Rock's Hobbs started off chasing the crew, now he runs with them. Shaw killed off fan favorite Han Solo, but for some reason he's cool now. Except Han appears to have the same magic as the Dodge Charger and Letty, because he's back in Fast 9 somehow.
Nice clubhouse.
Prior to teaming up with Hobbs, Shaw came prepared to deal with a crew whose superpower is driving cars. Just like La Machine charged the world of robot fighting, by just being a wedge that flipped bots over, Shaw made an open-wheel car that was essentially a ramp that he ran straight at his opponents to flip them over. Sometimes the simplest solution is the best one. Unlike most of the cars in the Fast and Furious franchise, the ramp car isn't built on an existing car, but a tube frame custom built from the ground up. If there is a line for the Fast and Furious franchise, it would be between the first 4 movies that still had street racing at its core, and the remaining movies that switched focus into high-octane stunts and heists. Deep in that racing, grounding the first movie had a moment that might have seemed confusing to some. When Brian brings the car that will become the 10-second car that Brian owes Dom, it's a worse-for-wear 1996 Toyota Supra. What sells Dom is what's under the hood.
Pop the hood?
Pop the hood.
but they don't explain why that's so exciting. For the import racing fan though, Brian had revealed the grail. The Mk IV Supra was powered by Toyota's J2Z GTE engine. The J2Z is a durable engine that Toyota used in a few cars, but the GTE capitalized on the J2Z's bulletproof nature to add a pair of turbos, which was pretty impressive to begin with. What makes it a hot rodding legend, however, is how much more it can take. Without any work, the engine can handle up to 800 horsepower. That's what a NASCAR car has. With a little work, some tuners have gotten even more, so you can see why they were excited. If Dom is the domestic type with a thing for Mopar, Brian is the import type with a thing for Skylines. In the US, the Skyline is known as the GTR, and while we've only recently been introduced, Nissan has been making the Skyline for decades. The Skyline has been called Japan's Corvette. The Corvette competes with the world's sports cars in a distinctly American way, with a throbbing V8. The Skyline does it the Japanese way, with technology. Just like Dom's ever-resilient Dodge Charger, Brian's Skyline makes multiple appearances. Brian got his Skyline bug in Too Fast, Too Furious when he bought a pair to infiltrate the racing scene in Florida. When he needed a drug-smuggling race-winning car in the fourth installment, Fast and Furious with the the naming of these movies is just… Anyway, Brian returned to the R34, buying a few and piecing together one with the best parts. The film crew did the same thing, taking two-wheel drive models and dressing them up so that the cars could do burnouts. Brian is seen driving other Skylines, old and new, throughout the franchise, linking him to the Skyline the way Dom is to the Charger. Speaking of Dom and Chargers, as the series has progressed, not only have the stunts gotten more elaborate, but the builds have as well. Even in the first movie, the 3 Honda Civics were specially modified for the task of hijacking trucks. Those custom jobs just got more and more elaborate. Enter Fast 8 and the Ice Charger. Of course, the team finds themselves having to take on a submarine because hey, why not? And to do that, they take on to wrenching on Dom's favorite platform, a 1970 Dodge Charger RT, last seen in Fast 7 waving goodbye to Brian. This time the engine was moved back between the axles. The track was widened, and just for good measure, a turbine-powered electromagnetic pulse generator was added. The EMP knocks out all electronics and was meant to disable the submarine. In true Fast and Furious fashion, though, the solution turned out to be hurling the car at the submarine. It started to feel like they're taking the name Charger literally. The car has 3 pedals, but the third one isn't the clutch. One pedal is for 4-wheel braking, while the other only locks up the rear to make stunts easier. 4 versions for a total of 9 cars were built for the sequence. The Supra wasn't the only car for the in-the-know crowd slipped into the franchise. Han Solo drove a rare body-kitted RX-7 in Tokyo Drift, and the other special models have made cameos. But there was a special beast lurking around the tunnels in Fast and the Furious. Originally built by Hot Rod Magazine as proof that you can have a daily driver and quarter-mile monster in one car, the 1973 F-Bomb Camaro was a bundle of crazy. It had a twin-turbocharged 406 V8 engine that put out an astounding 1,510 horsepower on a regular pump gas. To find a race car that races for more than the 8 seconds it takes the F-Bomb Camaro to cover a quarter mile, you'd have to go back to the Porsche 91730 Can-Am car, where it was decided that that was too much power for a race car to have. The car starts out as a henchman ride in Fast and Furious, before Dom takes the wheel and uses all 1,500 horsepower to kill the main bad guy by, what else, ramming into him with it. There's a point in a franchise where they go from being reliant on the fame of other things, like street racing or import tuning to boost them, to the franchise becoming the boost. By the 7th installment of the franchise, Fast and Furious had become a juggernaut and one of the best ways to feature a car. Enter a little-known Lebanese car maker called Lykan, and their entry into the limited edition 6 to 7-figure car world, the Hypersport.
$3.4 million, 0 to 60 in less than 3 seconds.
Without a nickname or racing series, Lykan was looking for something to raise the profile of their little monument to excess, and found it in the Fast and the Furious. Once again, the team finds itself having to heist a car with valuable information hidden in it, this time for the God's Eye program. I would say don't store valuable secrets in supercars, but seeing how hard it is to steal them, it seems like a great place to put them actually. When stealing it off the car didn't work, Dom jumped in and decided to drive it away, outdoing the Black Moon racing car jump from one building to the next by doing it 3 times. That's right, Linda Hamilton and Tommy Lee Jones were Fast and Furiousing before it was cool. The events that set them on the path to be on the wrong side of Deckard Shaw was going up against Owen Shaw, his brother. If there's one thing we've learned from the Fast and Furious franchise, is that family is more important than anything. Owen Shaw popped up as the bad guy in the 6th movie in the franchise, meaning that things needed to be stepped up 5 times at least. To do that, Owen Shaw brought a tank. Need to take on a team of precision drivers? Use a tank. That caused no small amount of jealousy amongst the team. For the 8th movie, they went and got themselves a tank. A Fast and Furious tank. The Ripsaw is the product of How and How. And unlike the big heavy tanks we're used to, it's a lightweight tracked vehicle that is capable of 100 miles an hour. The Ripsaw is part of an autonomous vehicle project for the military, as well as being something you can buy if you're really well off. So save those pennies, folks. They go for about $1 million. Unlike most of the cars in Fast and Furious, there wasn't a whole lot of preparation needed for the Ripsaw, as it was designed to take on the most ridiculous things people could throw at it. It's a stunt coordinator's dream. Those are some of the dopest rides in the Fast and Furious franchise so far. With so many, there are tons not on the list. What's your favorite? Are you JDM or American Muscle? Let us know in the comments, and while you're there, why not subscribe to CBR for more of the latest videos in your inbox? And we don't even have to destroy any chargers to make one, huh?